When I look back at my early life, I remember silence more than anything else. It wasn't peaceful silence. It was the kind that grows between your ribs like vines, choking your voice before it even leaves your mouth. I was that kid who always sat at the corner desk, who hoped the teacher's eyes wouldn't find him when questions floated in the air. My heart used to race even when someone asked me my name in front of the class. Speaking was like walking barefoot on broken glass. Every word felt sharp, risky, and painful. I loved ideas. I had so many of them. But they all lived quietly inside me, trapped like birds in a cage I built myself. Every morning before school, I would rehearse little sentences in my head. Good morning. May I sit here? How are you? But when I stood in front of people, my throat closed up and my tongue forgot the words it had practiced so many times. Teachers said I was quiet but smart. Friends thought I was rude because I rarely joined their conversations. The truth was, I wasn't rude. I was scared. Scared of being wrong, scared of being laughed at, scared of being seen. At home, my world was small. My parents spoke softly, and we lived in a modest house with books stacked on one shelf and dreams stacked on another. My mother used to say, "If you want to change your life, change your words first." But I didn't understand what she meant. I thought words were just sounds. I didn't know they could open doors. I remember one particular evening when I was around 13. The school had announced an English storytelling competition. I secretly wanted to participate. I even wrote a story about a boy who learns to fly with invisible wings. But the moment I saw the crowd gathered in the school hall, my courage melted. I hid behind the auditorium curtain listening to other students speak confidently. Their voices filled the room like music while mine stayed locked inside my chest. That night I cried quietly in bed, not because I lost, but because I never even tried. That became the pattern of my life for years. Watch others, admire them, and silently promise myself I'd try next time. But next time never came. Things began to change slowly when I entered high school. We had a new English teacher, Ms. Julia. She was the first person who looked beyond my silence and saw something hidden beneath it. "You don't have to be loud to be confident," she told me one day after class. "You just have to be honest when you speak." That sentence became the first brick in the foundation of my transformation. She encouraged me to start reading aloud in class, even if it was just one sentence a day. At first my hands shook, my voice cracked like an old radio. But Ms. Julia always smiled and said, "That's progress." Each time I spoke, I felt a tiny spark of light inside. It wasn't brightness yet, but it was something. I began to spend my evenings reading English stories out loud to myself. I'd stand in front of a mirror and try to imitate news presenters, TED speakers, and YouTubers who spoke with confidence. I'd pause the video, repeat after them, and imagine an audience in front of me. My first real victory came one day when a classmate asked me for help with an English assignment. I explained something to him, in English, without realizing it. It wasn't perfect, but it was communication. That day, I walked home with a strange new feeling. Pride. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. College brought a new world. Bigger classrooms, louder voices, and endless chances to speak. But fear doesn't disappear overnight. It only hides until you challenge it again. On the first day of my college orientation, the professor asked everyone to introduce themselves. When my turn came, I froze. The same old fear returned, the same sweaty palms, racing heart, trembling voice. But something inside me whispered, not again. I took a deep breath and said, "Hello, everyone. My name is Amir. I love learning languages." It wasn't a long introduction, but it was mine. People clapped politely and I smiled. Not because they clapped, but because I finally spoke without running away. That single moment changed my entire direction. From that day forward, I decided I would no longer run from fear. I would walk with it. I started joining the English club on campus. At first, I sat quietly in the back, listening to others debate and perform speeches. But one day, the club president asked for volunteers to give a 2-minute talk on the power of words. My heart said no, but my mind said yes. I raised my hand before my fear could stop me. That night, I practiced for hours in front of the mirror. I recorded my voice, noticed my mistakes, and corrected them. When the moment came, I stepped onto the small stage, facing 20 students. My voice trembled, but my message was clear. Words can build bridges or walls. When we learn to use them, we learn to shape our world. The audience smiled and clapped again. But this time, it wasn't polite applause. It was real appreciation. After that day, something shifted forever. I started giving more talks about English learning, about motivation, about courage. I even began helping other shy students express themselves. Teaching made me realize that confidence isn't about speaking perfectly. It's about connecting sincerely. Then came the biggest challenge of all. My first public event. The local community center invited me to speak at an English learning seminar for high school students. I was terrified, but I remembered Ms. Julia's words. Honesty is confidence. So I decided to tell my own story. I stood on that small stage looking at a crowd of 200 faces. My voice cracked again at first, but then I said, I used to be like you, scared to speak, scared to fail. But English gave me a new voice, and that voice changed my life. The audience listened in silence, then erupted in applause. Some even had tears in their eyes. That was the day I realized my story had power. I wasn't just speaking English anymore. I was inspiring through it. Confidence, I learned, isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward even when fear walks beside you. Today, when I stand on a stage or record my podcast, I sometimes smile at the memory of that silent boy who couldn't say his name aloud. He's still inside me, but now he listens proudly as I speak. I've spoken at conferences, hosted English learning sessions online, and even coached others on public speaking. But none of those achievements matter more than the simple joy of expressing myself without fear. I often receive messages from students who say, I'm shy, just like you were. Can I ever become confident? And I always tell them, confidence isn't a gift someone gives you. It's a muscle you build, one small word at a time. Every time you speak, even if your voice shakes, you're getting stronger. Every time you face your fear, it gets smaller. There were still setbacks. There were days when I forgot words on stage, moments when I made grammar mistakes during live talks. But those didn't break me. They built me, because I finally understood what my mother meant years ago. Change your words. Change your life. When I changed the words I told myself, from I can't to I'm learning, everything transformed. I began to think differently, walk differently, and even dream differently. Speaking English became more than a language skill. It became a tool to connect, to heal, to grow. I started mentoring others online, creating YouTube videos, podcasts, and storytelling sessions for learners around the world. The messages I received filled me with gratitude. People from different countries said my voice gave them courage to speak. That's when I realized confidence is contagious. When you find your voice, you give others permission to find theirs too. If I could go back and talk to my younger self, that scared, quiet boy in the corner, I'd tell him, your voice is not weak. It's just waiting for you to believe in it. And that's what I want to tell you too. Confidence doesn't come from perfect grammar, fancy words, or loud speaking. It comes from honesty, effort, and courage. You don't have to be fearless to be confident. You just have to keep showing up. Every great speaker was once a silent listener. Every confident person started as a shy dreamer. So start small. Speak your thoughts, your feelings, your truth. Record yourself. Read aloud. Learn, improve, repeat. One day, you'll look back and realize your voice didn't just change your English. It changed your life.